Hi, I'm Rowan.
And I'm Calvin.
And you're watching episode 2.20 of In the Zone.
In the Zone.
Season 2, episode 20. And today we're going to be discussing the episode Static. We'll be spoiling the entire episode, so if you don't want it spoiled for you, you should check it out beforehand. Lots of ways to do that.
Netflix, Hulu, IMDb, the usual.
And, of course, the DVDs.
So you see the rooms for rent sign.
Yeah, indicating we are in a boarding house, and it's mainly like old people.
Yeah, it's
who
people
are all
just sitting around
watching
TV.
this Western on TV. These two guys are playing checkers. There's our main guy, Ed Lindsay, and then another guy, his friend, the professor.
The doctor.
Not the doctor, the professor. Okay. So they're watching this commercial, and it's like, Green, the new chlorophyll cigarette. Which I think was, I'm pretty sure that wasn't a thing. I think it was a satire. But maybe that was a thing. The old guy, Mr. Ed Lindsay, our main character, he's all mad. He doesn't like the TV. He's like, hey, can you believe this? Changing the channels, and he doesn't like any of the channels.
It's like they're all predictable or something.
Yeah, then he goes to this weird, like, a basement area.
Yeah.
He sees this radio. After he looks at an old photo that we later find out it's supposed to be him and, like, a woman. But there's this boy who, for some reason, is, like, looking in the window, and he's like, what you got there?
What you got there, Ed?
Like, what's a radio? He's like, I ain't never seen one like that.
See, I love about this episode, they have some great quotes.
For some reason, Rod Serling, he looks really uncomfortable on camera. And you read all, because you read all these, like, anecdotes about how he was very uncomfortable and he always forgot his lines and stuff. But this is the only time where I think it really shows, like, he doesn't want to make eye contact with the camera and stuff. It's very strange. It's very, like, because he's always this sort of, like, mystical being.
We spent 10 years talking about how scared Rod Serling.
I know, but it's interesting, because usually he's, like, this weird mystical magic being, but here it's like, whoa, he's a real human person. It was strange. So we fade to black, and then we fade up, and he's making the boy take his radio upstairs.
He's like, come on, upstairs.
He's like, I'm here, boy. So it works, and the guy, and it's playing some rock and roll, and the guy's like, the little boy's like, ooh, I like this. So he makes the boy leave. He like gives him money.
He's like, go buy. No, I love this line. Go buy yourself a switchblade.
So then the radio goes weird, like.
Yeah, it's like all static.
Then he hits it.
He's like.
And then it's playing some slow jazz, Tommy Dorsey. And then it's like, oh, it's the WDPA. Then he listens to a game show. And there's a knock on the door.
Yeah.
And the woman's like, dinner's ready. And so he's like, ever since I remember, women have always been running my life, telling me when to eat dinner, blah, blah,
And then
blah.
she sort of like roasts him. She's like, well, I don't care whether you starve yourself to death, but I just wanted to tell you.
I just hope it's on purpose.
So you knew.
She leaves. Then, later, he's singing the tune at the dinner table, and they're like, how dare you, humming at the table.
And then the professor's like, what tune was that?
He's like, it's getting sentimental over you. And he's like, well, I heard it on the radio. They were playing some Tommy Dorsey. And then this other guy, Mr. Bragg, is like, Tommy Dorsey's dead. He's like, yeah, but I heard it.
The professor's like, it could have been, like, a station playing an old song or something.
Yeah, he said, like, they had wire and discs so they could record it.
Wire and discs.
And so Mr. Lindsay, like, goes to get a portable radio to show them, but then it doesn't play it, he can't find it.
Yeah.
He's like, well, we gotta go upstairs to get it. So then the professor and Mrs. Brown.
Like, we gotta get a real radio.
Oh, but before that happens, while he's going to get the radio, this woman says to this other woman next to her, wow, Mrs. Brown, aren't you glad you didn't marry him? And then, that becomes important later. So the professor and Mrs. Brown go upstairs, but it's all static on the radio. They phone the station.
Oh, yeah, they're like...
It's quite boring.
The operator said that the station was gone.
It was out of business.
15 years ago.
Yes. Oh, what a twist! Amazing!
Twist!
Then the guy's like, well, I know I heard it, so... whatever. Mrs. Brown is about to ask him something, but then she leaves. She goes outside to meet with Professor, and she's like, do you think he actually heard it? And he's like, I think he thinks he heard it. But then, inside, Ed Lindsay hears FDR giving a speech.
Right.
So that's strange. And then we fade to black. Now we come up, and he goes downstairs, and he's like, I've got it. Come up. So
And then
Professor Brown,
they're like-
or the professor
guys-
and Mrs. Brown go
But
upstairs,
then the other
and
guys,
it's static.
like, the other guys go like, don't even bother. All you're gonna hear is static.
And he's
so
right.
annoying.
Yeah, he's quite an annoying man. The professor's like, well, keep trying, maybe one day we'll hear it.
And then the professor leaves, and
Mrs. Brown is like,
Miss Brown is like, you
I
know,
wanna
we could have
talk.
been married. You know, like.
well,
talks about how-
wait. First of all, she's like, I want to talk with you. And he's like, oh, yeah, I just think I'm crazy. She's like, no. And then she goes on this long speech.
About how they could have been married.
Yeah, but
and
they've
it
been-
was too late.
Yeah. So there was this thing.
And he proposed.
They lived in this boarding house in 1940. He proposed to her here, and then he's like, well,
Right.
we should get married after we see whether my mom's gonna live or die because she's sick. She died, but then by that time it was too late. She says.
I thought
But
Twilight Zone came out in 1940. Oh, I don't know.
no, it didn't.
It's not that old.
No, it's not. It was the 60s.
Oh. I thought it was the 40s and 50s.
So they've still been living there for 20 years, which has been kind of awkward, you know, if you can imagine.
Yeah.
And so they had their chance and they missed it. She says, "You love
Not
me as much as a
anymore."
man ever loved a woman." He's like, "Yep, that's right." But and he says now he loves what they were and what they could have been. And this time of year would have been their anniversary. So he gets always cranky, and then he wishes that it could have been 1940. And he's
Right.
like, that song, that was our song, and we listened to this
Right,
together.
and then it's all
Just
that
bringing
stuff.
back these
and
memories.
he's like, he's like, oh, I forgot. And then she also says like how they always listen to the radio station and stuff.
Mhm.
And then he basically tells her to leave.
He says, "I did hear it."
And then, there's like this comedy on, like there's like laugh tracks,
Yeah.
and it's like,
And he's like, he gets some pillows and lays down. And he's listening, and he's like,
Yeah.
he's just cracking up.
and then it shows the next day he's in such a good mood. He like brings home the groceries.
He's like, "Isn't radio great?" He literally says something like that.
And then the women like look at each other. It's like
They're like, "Uh-oh," because when he goes upstairs, he's like, "The radio's gone. The radio's gone."
and he's like really mad.
And so
He's
he finds out Mrs. Brown and the professor they gave it to the junk dealer.
right, junk dealer.
So he just goes down there and he just takes it. The
And he's
dealer's
like-
like, "Hey, you can't just take that. You have to buy it."
So he's like,
Gives him
"How
$10.
much?" $10. Yep.
And then
then he's like, okay.
all right, brings it in
out.
his room.
He's like, I hope it still works.
And then it works, and he
it
hears Tommy
works.
Dorsey. But then Mrs. Brown comes in, but she's all young, and she's
And
like,
we're-
"It's
it's like,
1940.
Mrs. Brown,
It comes on every week." And then he has like young man makeup on,
Yep.
and
He
it's
looks young.
creepy.
No, he looks young.
It's kind of weird.
But
It's
anyway,
kind
and
of
he's like,
weird.
Yeah, and then that's basically they're like,
So then they embrace, and it's
And it's
1940
like,
again, and then the radio looks different, and yeah,
the end. Yeah, the radio looks so much newer.
and so that's the end. It's not great. It's not very good, I don't think.
What? I like
First of all, there's padding, because the whole thing about they give it to the junk dealer and then he gets it back, they don't need that scene at all. So that's annoying to me.
Really?
Yeah, they don't need it at all. Also, I don't like the way that we get the whole backstory from like this long speech from the woman. Like, why would he even say this if he
yeah.
already knows it? It's like, couldn't there have been
Well,
a
just
better
so
way
we
to
could-
get all
so
that
we could,
information?
yeah.
Well, yeah, but it has to make sense for the characters too. I think it's just pretty mediocre. It's not very special. The story, whatever.
I like the story.
It's sort of interesting the
The
way.
story's the like the good part.
I think the story's sort of cool. It's like how
It's just how they do.
the whole element of he wishes he was back in this time, so his brain sort of tricks him into hearing it. But then it's sort of, I guess, really the only science fiction-y part. Either he gets so deep into his delusion that he thinks that he's
Yeah.
gone back in time, or like the radio's magic and it transports him back in time.
Yeah.
Either way, that's sort of cool and interesting. How did you like it?
It was good. You know, I was thinking about giving it a 10 out of 10, but it's like after you said yours, I realized some more of the flaws. with it.
Yeah.
Plus, I can't give every single one a 10 out of 10.
Well, I guess you could if they all deserved it.
Yeah, I guess it just didn't. They could have done other stuff. Like it didn't.
Yeah,
didn't
it was
move
just sort of an
fast.
episode like,
They didn't move
oh,
fast enough.
you're right. It just sort of, he just kept listening to the radio,
Alright.
and he's like, oh, come up. Oh, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, come up. Oh, it doesn't
Alright,
work.
so what did you rate it?
I would give it a 5.5.
What? That low?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
it's
not gonna
just,
give it a 10, but I'm not gonna give it.
I mean,
that
it's
low.
not awful. I mean, how long is it gonna take you to forget static?
And I will give it a 7.5.
7.5 from Calvin. And that's our episode on static. So if you come back next week around whenever you're watching this, a week from now, then you will see a discussion on the episode The Prime Mover. So we hope to see you then.
He moves Amazon. He moves the moves between Amazon. No, I don't know what I'm saying. Amazon Prime. Okay, I don't know what I'm saying.
It moves into these moves Prime and Amazon Prime.
Yeah. The end.